And that one, the old lady with that fucked up weird fucking Meemaw, fucking Mama elegy haircut.
Meemaw is shot from like this.
You know what I'm talking about, Meemaw?
Meemaw shot like
motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody. It's one fucking hour time. I am Evan Husney, and of course, this is the show where we talk about one goddamn movie, and we have just one fucking hour to do it. To my left, we got Big T, Tom Fitzgerald. What's going on, T?
Obey the walrus.
Oh, the keys are coming back tonight. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. I think it's very apropos for tonight's show that the keys make a return. Okay, nice, nice. All right, to my right, we also got, as always here, Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, what's going on, man?
What's up, everybody? It feels like we just finished like a big theme series of videos, and now we're starting on a whole nother theme again already. But
that's right.
It's gonna be fun. It's October.
That's right. What is Marcus talking about? He is talking about, it is October, so you know what that means. It's one fucking Tober time, which is, of course, our month-long horror movie marathon, where we talk about, where we've, curated a nice lineup of flicks that we're talking about for the whole month of October. At the end of the hour, we'll get into the full program because tonight's program, of course, is very special. We're going to kick this whole thing off with the shot-on-video horror movie cult classic, Tales from the Quadead Zone. Perfect. Okay.
Mommy, what's a quadead?
Yeah, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. Hey, Tom, can you play me a track during this ad break here?
Track?
Yeah, or something here for me. See if we got something here for this ad break. Okay. All right, it is the One Fucking Hour Patreon. Everybody, shouting out to that real quick. It's just for $5 a month. You can sign up at patreon.com/onefuckinghour. Is where you can get instant access to all of our bonus episodes, our audio commentary tracks, and you can also get 24-hour early access to every single episode before everybody else does. And so we just dropped an epic bonus episode where we went into our favorite 90s albums. We're definitely going to be doing some bonus episodes for fucking Tober, so make sure that's the only place you're going to be able to get those. Or if you want all your shit on YouTube, you can click our homepage on YouTube, and there's the join button right there. You can click, same price, $5 a month, same benefits. We appreciate it. If you like what we're doing, it's the best way to support the show. So, and also one more thing to plug. You guys got another live show coming up in LA, right? What's going on with that?
That's right. The boys are back in town. EXP TV, our crazy little 24-hour channel. Check it out. We do live stuff once in a while. We're doing it again at the Philosophical Research Society, which is a neat little 200-seat building. They're once again letting us do something crazy, and we're doing our Halloween show this Saturday, October 12th. Saturday night, 7:30, October 12th. What we're doing, well, it's a pet thing of mine for years. Marcus is also a huge fan of this stuff. It's where Kung Fu martial arts world meets horror.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, and it's
Shaw
called,
Brothers.
well, Kung Fu Halloween. How about that?
Yes.
So it's named after the 70s film called Kung Fu Halloween. It's an hour-long mix that we curated, but it's basically like a midnight movie rock and roll kind of look at all the wildest scenes of the wildest movies of like supernatural showdowns in martial arts movies.
Ooh, that sounds awesome.
That's Kung Fu Halloween.
All right.
Saturday night.
Link for tickets in the description of this video or on any podcast app of this episode. Get the tickets October 12th, 7:30 at the Philosophical Research Society in LA. Check out our boys doing the EXP TV. It's also exp.tv, right, if you want to watch the channel.
Well, exptv.org.
Sorry.
And there's something wild playing on there right now, I'm sure.
Okay. Right. Awesome. All right, everybody. Shall we get into this? episode 116, guys. Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone. You ready to get into Tober time?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to. Here is the clock. Put it up here. All right. Quick little synopsis here on Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone. Maybe a lot of people listening are going to be like, "The fuck is that? What are you guys talking about?" You know, this is a pretty deep cut, interesting movie, but I'm very excited to get into it on the show here for the first time. You know, we have covered other shot on video horror films, or we have covered Sledgehammer in the archives. Shout out, one of our, I think in our first 10 episodes we did Sledgehammer, which is pretty demented.
Early on.
Yeah.
SOV, I think they call it on the street.
That's right. Yeah. SOV, shorthand for shot on video. So, Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone. This synopsis is by our good buddy Joe Ziemba, who this is his write-up for his website, Bleeding Skull, which is a major resource for all the shot-on-video horror films. If you don't know Bleeding Skull, you got to get over there right now. Check out all these wonderful movies. All right, so Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone, a 3-story anthology film shot in Chicago and Alabama in 1987. Is Chester Novell Turner's second and final dig into self-released SOV horror following his first movie, Black Devil Doll from Hell. And Joe goes on to say here, rules of language, structure, and general awareness do not exist in the Quad-Dead Zone. It's a tight package of nonstop delirium featuring Turner's homemade Casio tone score, kitchen utensil bloodbaths, and psychedelic video toaster effects. Surprises hide beneath every plastic-covered couch, dirt floor basement, and clown nose. The end credits say Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone will return, and Joe says, I await forever. So that's the film. In addition to being a shot-on-video film, I guess you could file it in the horror section if you wanted to, but it's so much more than that. You know, this is kind of a weird singular morality tales that he's sort of making here in this film. Very satirical in nature is what I would put it. But I think what makes it kind of has the secret sauce way more so than other shot on video horror films is this film is oddly poignant in a lot of different ways. And you can tell that it's a deeply personal film. And I think that's what's incredible. I mean, like the main themes of this film are like the dysfunction of the family here and betrayal and jealousy and all these things. So it's very sincere, and it's definitely made with a vision that is uniquely one man's vision, you know. Yeah. And just so no one gets it twisted, this movie is probably made for like a few $1,000s, you know, shot on, you know, a camcorder, you know, untrained actors, amateur filmmaker. This is as DIY as it gets in a lot of ways. But somehow this film found its way out into the universe and into the hands of people, and it's kind of created this wild cult following that exists today. So Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we drill down on that for just a second? Like
sure.
Because, you know, people do make crazy backyard weirdness, you know, and it does manifest here and there, and even public accessy kind of things.
Sure.
But this did have a somewhat formal, mass-produced VHS tape that you could find at a Portland mom and pop video store, you know, like a New Hampshire mom and pop video store. It was all around. It was just, there was distribution involved and mass production. Am I wrong?
You're slightly wrong, but not super wrong. Okay. mass produced in air quotes, okay? Because let me show you this here. Obviously, you know, this is one of the most coveted VHS tapes there is. I've shown it on the Patreon before, but this is what it looks like. This is one of the things I had to have, you know, when I was becoming a more serious collector, and I'm glad that I finally got this. But this is an original this is the original VHS tape here of Tales from the Quad-Dead Zone.
That's not the reissue.
This is not the reissue. No. Yeah. And it's said, I mean, there are collectors out there who specialize, you know, in these types of films, and it's estimated that there was 100 copies of this tape that were made. Okay. So this movie.
Can I just let me just more clarity? Just Is there a label involved, or is
No.
it his own label,
No.
quote unquote label, that put it
This-
out? Because
this
this is
film-
very analogous to like a private press album.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
like yeah.
This film in particular was this is Chester Turner's second film. You know, obviously he made his first film, which has a similar level of cult fame, you could say, which is Black Devil Doll from Hell. Now, this film received distribution. This movie was distributed by another company and was seen more in, you know, rental shops and so on and so forth.
Right, because that I would see on the shelf back in the day when I go to mom and pop stores scrounging for shit in the 90s. So I thought maybe there is a distinction. Like that got a second different production company distribution deal.
Yes.
The first film, but Quadead.
No.
So he basically was on like Columbia Records, and then with his debut album, and then he got dropped from the label, and then he put out his own album in 1975.
Yeah, he basically got burned by the distributor. Didn't see any money. That classic story, and so that nearly turned him off from filmmaking altogether. And we're going to get into the backstory of this because we are starting to peel back the curtain early on this because there's a lot of mystique involved in this. But to answer your question, he self released this tape and basically only made it as far as 25 miles outside his town, selling it to other stores, and then kind of gave up because he didn't have the money, the gas money, if you will, to get this out there. So that's why this tape is worth so much money. And we should cite this. I mean, earlier this year in June, a copy of this VHS tape sold for $7,749. Obviously, I didn't buy it. Yeah, right. I didn't buy it at that price, but pretty happy it sold for that price. I'll tell you that.
No, and it's only going to go up. Yeah, because if nothing else, literal scarcity. Thank you for that. I just wanted to get some clarity on that.
Sure.
You're so right about the mystique of it, you know. And this is like one of those things that, you know, I always think back to the era before the internet when things were like a mystery, but this was still a mystery like in the era of the internet, which is pretty cool, you know. And I mean, like I just remember, you know, knowing about Black Devil Doll first, and then the titles come up, and it's like directed by Chester Turner, music by Chester Turner, written by Chester Turner, you know, and it's almost like a joke, like a sketch comedy bit or something, but and it makes you feel like it's not like he must not be a real guy. Maybe it's a pseudonym. Who is this? You know, it's such a bonkers out there movie. None of it seems very real, and it was really hard to imagine who he was. No one could track him down. So like, it reminds me of, you know, like Led Zeppelin never used to do interviews, right, in the 70s, and that mystique helped carry them through. Or, you know, maybe you know, there's like an era where your friends told you some sort of urban legend or something. You weren't able to like look it up online to find the answer, and it was so much more compelling. So, you know, I love this movie still, but I do kind of miss that era of like not knowing. You know,
the analogy I have, just one last time with the music analogy, is that guy Jandek.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he's a private press guy.
Okay, right. Yeah. So Jandek put out like 5 albums a year out of this P.O. box in like small town in Texas, and for years nobody knew anything about him. It did add to the interest of the music. It's cool music, but it's like the mystique of it all is also a factor. Then he was found. He started doing gigs.
I saw him live once. Yeah, I wish I did.
WFMU.
I saw on Mocha TV or something.
And it's different. And there's one more thing I'll say too. Back to film, is I was slightly heartbroken when the story broke. I think in 2001. Of who made Last House on Dead End Street.
Right. Shout out to the
honestly,
archives.
Up to 2001, people did not know, because that had pseudonyms on the title, on the the credits, the poster, and the VHS tape from like Venezuela, and then it was like, oh, he's this guy, Roger Watkins, he's in like New Hampshire or whatever, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's cool, it's interesting, and I'm glad I know more about it, and like. The movie was originally 4 hours long and was called The Cuckoo Clocks from Hell. But it is kind of like, God, I wish it was just never, just the mystery just remained. And so I kind of feel the same way about this film, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, so here's just a quick little origin on it in terms of the mystique, in terms of just discovering a film like this. Shout out, we talked about, Last House on Dead End Street. That's in the archives. We've covered that last fucking Tober. And then we covered Sledgehammer, as I mentioned at the top of this episode. Another shot on video, total obscurity, but well worth watching. Is as I said in the Sledgehammer ep, I remember going to Cinefamily, you know, where you work, Tom, and you guys were bugging out over these shot on video films, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" You know, this is like some accidental.
It's like 2010 or something.
Maybe earlier. I don't know, 2010, 2009, I don't know.
Well, we did a series called Homemade Horror in 2008.
I think it was around that time because
we had 2008 in the fall for Halloween. I call it. It wasn't SOV wasn't really coined. I was calling it Homemade Horror, and we had like Nathan Schiff from the Long Island Cannibal Massacre and all that kind of stuff. He was hanging out with us. So okay, I got you. Okay.
So I was there, you know, young, impressionable cinephile, seeing this like accidental video art that you guys were obsessing over, and I'm like, holy shit, I need to know all about this immediately. I think you guys pointed me to Bleeding Skull, or Zach Carlson did, somebody did, and I went to Bleeding Skull, and I'm reading through all these other movies. I come across Quadead. I'm like, holy shit. I get it off Cinemageddon, you know, and that was the rest was history. But up until that point, nobody knew where this movie came from. Okay, they knew it was the same director as Black Devil Doll from Hell, which had some, you know, had a rep, you know, as I said. But the general consensus of what you could find online about the director of this movie, Chester Turner, it was this pretty common knowledge that he had died in a car accident in 1996. Was the rumor that became truth on the internet. And you know, you'd hear stories about he was selling copies of this movie out of the back of his, you know, his truck and his car, and you know, all this stuff, and you just didn't know. And then that's what added to the experience of watching this movie, because it just seemed like, what is the backstory? Why are you seeing, you know, this, it's very unusual to be, you know, for a shot on video horror film, but also like, you know, it's presumably made by a black filmmaker. That's unusual, you know, and just, and the different life that this depicts, you know, with
and I used to wonder, is one of the leads him?
Right. Sure.
You know, like, is he the brother of the clown and whatnot? You know, like, I always wondered that.
Well, he is the brother of the clown, I think. I think he is.
Oh,
well, I think his brother is the clown. Or it's one of the two brothers in the brothers segment. Yeah.
The other guy. The other guy. Okay. The non-clown is
the non-clown. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
that was right.
We'll get to that. So anyway, just, you know, fascinating. And then cut to about 10 years ago from today. He was found. He was found by, you know, this guy who ran an indie video label, and he acquired the rights to the films, and of course Chester was super stoked to hear from him. I was like, sure, let's put it out. That sounds like fun. And they re-released.
Gotta say, that's great detective work.
Yes,
people who tracked down. Massacre Video, right? Yeah,
Massacre Video tracked him down just miles away from a video store that had a copy of Quadead Zone, which is pretty amazing. And they re-released the film. It kind of had a new cult following. There's a New York Times editorial about this. You know, there were screenings, appearances, interviews, and it's kind of one of those great stories, you know, when you find when a lost work and its creator get found, and they figure out there's this whole other like fan base for this, you know. Yeah. So pretty cool.
That was incredible.
Let me guess, he's not reading. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was incredible when he did come out of the woodwork. We had him at Cinefamily, and got pictures with him and stuff, and he was really nice, and it was just really like, holy shit, that's him. There he is. And one of the things that blew me away was the Massacre Video guy. I was handing out these like cutouts from like photocopies from a newspaper at the time. It was like a newspaper article on
in '87.
Chester Turner, like, you know, it's called, like, it says like movie business in Lamar County, and it's like tells the story of him writing those. It's like it tells the story of him making those films, and it's like, lo and behold, he was just hiding in plain sight basically the whole time. Like, there's newspaper articles about this guy, and he was still
interest story.
hiding in the
but
obscurity.
You said something, Evan, that actually intrigued me. There is a strange brief period of time when he did not know that there's all this buzz.
No, he did not know at all.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no buzz, and then he's aware of the buzz. Like, he wasn't reading Bleeding Skull is what I'm trying to say.
No.
Like he wasn't subscribing to that,
Right.
So like it's weird that he could be like living his life and just innocently, totally blissfully unaware that there's like hipster dorkos, in like Austin, Texas,
right?
Got like a quaded tattoo,
and that copies of the film are selling for over $1,000 at that point, which was unheard of for tapes.
I mean, that sounds like a movie right there.
It does. Yeah,
like
totally.
like he's going to work as a working schlub, and then like has no idea like he's the bee's knees to all these hipsters.
I know that's amazing. It's amazing.
Weird.
This is very weird. It's very weird. So yeah, so let's sort of get into just Chester a little bit, because I do want to talk about this movie because this movie is fucking wild. Comes in just over an hour in length. Some crazy stuff in this movie, and I said oddly poignant. Some really great stuff.
It's a fun, quick watch. When I was watching it, I was like, why isn't every movie an hour-long anthology film? Like it makes it so breezy.
It is.
I thought of something, and maybe you guys can help me because you are more researched in this than I am.
Sure.
I feel he wasn't. I was like, what is he influenced by? It feels less films than more like Tales from the Crypt, like TV anthology shows.
I could tell you exactly.
Like Tales of the Unexpected and all that shit. And Freddy's.
Yeah. He does mention that in that article, actually. So it's like a.
Yeah, so I can exactly tell you about the inspirations because it's very unique. I often think anyone who's kind of an outsider artist is being more influenced by almost a different medium than the one they work in. And in this case, yes, he was a fan of films. He was a fan of Universal horror films. Frankenstein, Tom. Hitchcock and stuff. But really, what he was influenced by was Battlestar Galactica, the original,
the old one.
Yes, the old one. Wow. But and this one's not a shocker given the title of the film, but the Twilight Zone, huge in terms of this, and of course the Outer Limits, and comic books. He was inspired by comic books.
I see that.
And so you could see that, like if he was reading like 70s EC reprints. Maybe he is getting into the like morality tales of
100%,
like those kind of like,
but also the humor, like we were saying,
the dark humor. Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Wow.
Yep.
In the article that from back in the day when he's promoting the film, he talks about this movie and he says, it's very entertaining. The stories are very thought-provoking, sort of like The Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock.
There you go. Presents. Okay, so he was into Alfred Hitchcock Presents, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
So interesting. Okay, that makes total sense. So he's got some very interesting influences, more so than you'd think. It's not like this is someone who's influenced by horror films per se or any of that stuff, which is
right.
It's not like he watched Friday the 13th or something, and this is what he's doing.
Right, because it seems like most of the other SOVs are like that, right? Like it's like teens that were trying to make a slasher film.
Totally.
Yeah. John Carpenter. Totally. But also, I think he probably felt like this is a threshold that I could deal with by having a limited budget, because a lot of those, because what I'm talking about, and maybe he's not so much influenced by these, but like those 80s anthology shows are very cheap. And very crude, and
totally.
Like I think he could have said, "Well, wait, this doesn't look that fancy."
Night Court.
Like, was it Freddy's Nightmare or whatever?
Oh right.
Fright Night was that? Yeah. There was a run of those kind of like horror anthologies in the mid to late '80s, right?
Totally, Nightmares.
Big Tales of the Unexplained.
Or whatever that was. Yeah. So Black Devil Doll from Hell, as I mentioned earlier, is. The film he made before. I think it's just to kind of get to Quaddead Zone. It's worth mentioning here. So this movie was made, he says, between $7,000 and $8,000, and it was entirely financed by himself. Shocker. It was filmed in a church, a bar, and other locations throughout Chicago. And it's a bizarre psychosexual tale that features Shirley Jones, who's also in Quaddead Zone, who became Chester Turner's girlfriend during the making of these films. And she stars as a woman who undergoes a troubled sexual awakening after being assaulted by a dummy that looks like Rick James. So that's what this movie is about.
He said that with that was an intention.
He modeled the dummy after Rick James. And what's the painting with the farmer, standing looking at the
American Gothic?
The American Gothic meets Rick James is the inspiration.
You're quoting him?
Yes, I am.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that's why he has the overalls, which is interesting. That's interesting because it's very proto Chucky, too, which is pretty cool. But it's
also that Trilogy of Terror, that TV movie in 1973,
which I'm sure he saw many times. That's on TV.
There was a Twilight Zone too with a killer doll, right?
Yeah.
True. So the film is slow moving, crudely edited. Has that very low budget look that comes from the VHS tape it was shot on. But yeah, he started writing this in his 20s. But it wasn't until he was in his 30s when he decided to go out and actually make a film. Now, you guys are going to love this. He took a mail order course on making movies. That's how he learned. It was a course you could take through videotapes, which just sounds incredible.
God,
so
where are those tapes?
Yeah. I know. So you would send them, a certain amount of money, and you could listen to them, with booklets and learn about how to make films. And
that makes sense because there's so much, there's whatever low budget movie and cheap and all that stuff, but there is all these filmmaking classic techniques, and it is well covered. There's a lot of coverage and a lot of planning of how the shots be edited together and stuff. There is a sophistication to it, beyond like your normal kind of backyard film.
The other SOV Things.
Yep. Shout out.
Does not have a lot of coverage.
No, it does not.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it's true. Good point.
Yeah. Shout out to the Things episode in the archive. Another great homemade horror, low budget horror. And so anyway, so he said it was easy to pick. It was easy to learn the technical part, but it took every dollar he could scrape and borrow and steal in order to get this movie finished. And so he, tried to get people to invest. No one wanted to. And he said, this is a quote from him. He's like, here it is. People were thinking, oh, here's a black man with no movie credentials, and you're going to try and come out here and make a movie? Who do you think you are, Spike Lee? That was sort of the pushback, he was getting and trying to make his own movie. And the doll that he wanted to, the crazy design of this doll was just purchased at a hobby shop in Chicago. Shirley did a lot of the work on it. She did his hair, got his clothes, so they're very closely collaborating on this. And then, as we said earlier, he sold it to a distributor. They stiffed him on all the money. And so he was like, damn, well, now I got to do this myself. And we're not going to go down that road anymore. And so it's kind of a miracle that he wasn't discouraged enough after the first film to go ahead with the second film. So that's where we're getting now into Quadead Zone. And as we said before, this movie features 3 different stories, 3 different chapters. It's one that serves.
It feels like it should feature 4, though, right? I mean,
as the title.
The qua part.
The qua part.
Right. It's not the Tridead Zone.
No, the Tridead. Ooh, the Tridead Zone. Someone said on the internet, I was reading this, they were theorizing where I don't know if anyone straight up asked him, like, what does that mean? But someone theorized that it was based on the quadruplex videotape. Which was the type of videotape that people would use to broadcast on TV back in the day.
Right.
In the old article, he does say that it says that he has been contracted to do a 4-movie series for Tales from the Quadead Zone. So I'm sure he's just kind of beefing up his resume, but he wanted to make this a 4-part movie.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so that makes more sense. There you go. So, it features 3 stories. One is a wraparound segment, sort of the Crypt Keeper, if you will, segment that stars Shirley, which is my favorite parts of the film, I think, is all the Shirley stuff.
Yeah.
Hanging out with, what's her name? Hanging out with Shirley.
Shirley Jones, And so
Shirley and Bobby.
Yeah, Shirley and Bobby. So one segment was shot in Chicago. I thought the whole film was shot in Chicago, but actually the other 2 were shot in Alabama. So,
let me guess, Chicago is the clown brother.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I actually watched the director's commentary, which was
right on.
Not as enlightening as usual as a lot of commentaries, but it was very interesting to get into the backstories and stuff. But that was the one thing I was blown away by, is that this wasn't all just shot in his house or something.
I know.
It's like they're at the friend's house. That's my my brother's house. This is my friend's house. This is at a real mortuary, whatever. they traveled. There was a lot of work put into it. It wasn't just a home recording type situation.
Yeah.
Totally. So the first segment, which we'll get into, is called Food for ... which is, again, one of these morality tales, which we'll get into. Then the other one is The Brothers that Tom keeps alluding to with the clown and the brother. That was shot in Chicago. The other two segments in Alabama. And I think it's important to note as we talk about this, like most SOV films, shot on video horror films, they are sort of crudely made, cheaply made to make money and to sort of exploit the booming video market at the time. Let's make something for 12 cents, and we can gussy it up on the front cover and on the back and make it look like it's a real movie, and then you rent it and it's fucking not, and but there's some accidental art that exists within those confines, and but Quad Dead transcends that, because this is not cynically made to cash in on something. This is a personal vision. This is a guy who's got some wacky ideas in his head that he needs to get out by any means necessary. And, and he has a real artistic drive, in order to get this thing done, however he's going to do it. So that's what's very unique about it to me, where, Sledgehammer, as much as I love it, it's made like, all the awesome accidental art slow motion sequences are actually there to pad the film's running time, so they get to a feature length runtime.
He's in a sea of otherwise cynical visions.
Yes,
more or less.
Yes,
and he's quite an earnest, creative person out there.
Totally.
So that does set him apart.
He's not trying to be Steven Spielberg. He's not trying to, make this and get discovered and go to Hollywood. There's a way more artistic intention behind it.
I do love it. He made it when he was like 40 too. I love that part of it. He's not just some teens make it in the backyard too. It's like another entering a new chapter of his life where he's like, in his middle age, he's going to make some films. I love that.
Yeah. So, and obviously with this being sort of one of those, portmanteau films, it's mirroring the structure of a Twilight Zone or a Tales from the Crypt, more specifically Tales from the Crypt. But the main themes, as I alluded to at the top, each chapter you can say is about the family structure, like eroding, and the idea of these families collapsing, because of desperation, inadequacy, jealousy, whatever. And he hits the motif of family pretty hard right out of the gate. I mean, this film, the first thing you see, dedicated to his father, which to me kind of puts this whole thing in a weird perspective, because I kind of think, oh shit, this could be a very personal film, even more so because of that, right? I mean, I don't know, just a thought.
Certainly,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and just in addition to it being dedicated to his father, his brother is involved in the film too. It's like acts in the film. He's in the chapter that's about brothers. His brother's in that part. His brother and him made the music together. So they're like playing the Casio keyboard and singing that song with the quadead sound,
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing.
Watch the movie.
It's a family affair, but even more than that, like that, it's just everybody worked together in the family on the film. There's all, it's like if you ran this by like a therapist or something,
right?
Like
that's what I'm saying.
Like why don't you come in and let's have some sessions? Talk this out, Not to degrade him at all, but just like, and actually maybe he's being sort of radically honest here.
Sure. And
just letting it all hang out, because there's, for me specifically, this line of thinking exercises in the brothers, because the rage that the brother has for the dead brother who he dresses as a clown is, I don't know if they have a negative personal dynamic, him and his brother, or maybe there's another brother that's not in the film,
right?
But that doesn't feel like acting. That doesn't feel like just made out of whole cloth.
Yeah, it
feels like kind of an art as therapy kind of exorcism, like almost like a performance art thing,
Sure, totally. So just to kick this off, so the movie opens. We see, Shirley Jones in her kitchen, and she's like sort of, if you will, the crypt keeper of this film because you find out that he has an invisible dead son is a ghost named Bobby that she's working in her kitchen. All of a sudden this storybook fades in that says Tales from the Quadead Zone, which is pretty amazing.
Now how does Bobby sound?
Oh, Bobby sounds sha 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 sha. Yeah, just
when I first saw it, I went, "This is brilliant."
Yeah,
that's a great, cool choice. Like, and it's accompanied by Shirley getting like wind in her hair.
Yes,
that is like his presence is blowing a breeze of sha 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 sha.
I know.
What the fuck, dude?
I know, it's awesome. It's so cool. It's so cool. And then right off the bat, it's like she's, there's also some melancholy just in the fact of she's trying to read stories to her dead son. Like, what's going on here? He died somehow. And, there's could be some psychotic connection or break going on here, so, and you have to just say, like, the look, the video quality of the video of how just the shots of this 70s kitchen, and how they're pulling off all these very charming, crude, practical effects of how they're, selling the invisible sun with like, fishing line attached to a cup that he's holding, and it's it's floating.
The compression on the
couch,
the cushion,
the cushion
chair,
on the chair,
to indicate that Bobby's presence is there.
Amazing.
There's a great moment where it's like the camera's panning to like following Bobby, and then you see he goes by some flowers, and the flowers move, like he bumps them, and then he goes and sits on the chair. And it wasn't just all done like with a cut. They did it with the motion of the camera.
Sure.
And set up 2 gags, to happen to sell it. That's pretty brilliant, actually.
But it just the way the kitchen looks, the video quality of being in this living room feels like some modern video art.
It's realer than real.
It's real.
Because like you said, it's that weird thing where people, I'm glad you said that. Everybody, when they're dumb, think like, oh, like in 1986, everything looked like 1986.
Right.
Like everyone's phone looked like it was 1986. No, everything looks like 74 to 86.
Right.
Like, like things accumulate within a 10-year period or so.
Sure.
And that's as a perfect example of this film, and it's very lower income America. So it feels so vivid. And it's, of course, you can't make a set like this. It has to be, it's like it's a documentary of a lower income ranch house, and it's an incredible setting. And
that's what's immediately arresting about it. It's like you see that and you're like, whoa, you would not be in this living room, on any other shot and video horror movie or a movie that looks like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's amazing. And we should say we're bearing the lead, but it's preempted by this insane opening credit sequence, with the shrieking proto rap vocals, and the lo-fi
Casio keyboard, drum machine,
wild illustrations that Shirley Jones herself drew, I guess, and
incredible.
It's just like, whoa, what is this? And then we're going to this living room. It's amazing. Right. It's incredible.
Right. That kitchen, yo.
The kitchen. I mean, yes, the kitchen.
Oh,
yeah. Marcus, anything on that?
Watching the commentary, like with Shirley, it's with Shirley and Chester talking, and you get the feeling that they really did have a deep collaboration on the film, which is pretty cool. And like she was very involved, and like almost every time he talks, he's like, "When did we do that?" or "How did we do the lighting in this?" And she's like, "I don't remember," or whatever. But I mean, it was like they were really. Like, it's almost like it felt like they were co-directing it or something,
I could see it.
Like she was involved in every aspect of it, like helping make the props, pulling off the special effects and stuff. And, in the credits, it has all this list of names, that go by of the people that are involved. Like Chester's in it a lot, Shirley's in it a lot, but a bunch of names. But I did catch that he says that, well, man, we had a ball making up them names.
Oh, yeah. Because they did everything.
So, like, of course it was just them making the film.
Sure.
Right.
Of course.
And it just,
absolutely.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, but then again, just jumping forward in the film a bit, like, who are all those white people?
Okay, we're going to get to that.
Like someone, I hope you guys give me an understanding of all those white people.
Okay, hold on. So, just to catch everybody up. So in the film, she's talking to her invisible son. the Tales from the Quadead Zone book fades in. Of course, she looks at it, she reads it, and she's like, "Oh, Tales from the Quadead Zone. That sounds good." You know, it's like
Tales from the Quadead Zone. Huh? That sounds good.
Yeah, like it's like a Necronomicon.
I know. It's like, oh, that
like
was
a
cool.
large volume
I
with
know.
this like scary, strange writing on it. Like it's a fairy tale.
Of course, they made it out of a Bible too, so it's got that sacrilegious quality too.
Nice.
Love that.
Nice. So, so then she starts to read the first story to her invisible son, which is titled "Food for ... And this is this segment. Yeah, straight away you're like, whoa, who are all these white people that are seated around a table? There's 8 people. And I guess they were all people there were locals from Sulligent, Alabama, wherever the fuck that is. And basically this story involves a family that resorts to murder when they don't have enough food to feed themselves. And Chester did mean this as a satire, which it reads as. And it's this idea of, but what sort of makes it like hard art is like, it's like you have 8 people and like 4 sandwiches, and there's not enough sandwiches for everybody there. And, but obviously, you could make the criticism, well, why don't they just chop up the sandwiches and divvy up the pieces, but that's not what it's about, because it is more of like this parable, this sort of like, it feels like avant-garde cinema or something.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. Like this could have been a Czech short film.
There you go.
1968. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Total.
It's a very arched kind of premise. That's a clear. It reads clearly as a parable, like you were saying.
Totally. And I love how when Shirley is introducing the family in the story too, if you caught it, it's kind of hard to catch dialogue in this film sometimes because of the way the audio is mixed. But she introduces them as poor crackers, which I love.
I know, like casually.
Yeah,
and Bobby'd be like, "Oh, okay, I know what you mean." Like, you didn't answer my question. Like, okay, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that was the family members of his like coworker, like whatever he was doing, like a bus driver or something. That was like Bobby and his fucking kids and grandkids.
I don't know.
They do mention.
Oh, go ahead.
In the director's commentary, they do kind of mention maybe who a couple people might be, but it's Okay,
right.
But the one thing is that she does have a similar reaction to you in a way, Tom. Like she's the humor of that situation is not lost on her, because she says something like to the effect of like, after we did this, I went and told my friends, yeah, we had a whole bunch of white people up in the house. And they're like, what?
Exactly.
So and then she starts laughing. So there was, she thought it was funny too.
It was like a lot of white people.
I'm just going to assume
and they're all super weird and like, you've never seen them before and you'll never see them again. And that the old lady with that fucked up weird fucking Meemaw, fucking
Mama
elegy haircut.
Meemaw is shot from like this.
You know what I'm talking about, Meemaw?
Meemaw shot like from the side, like extreme side angle, like behind her too. Like you never get to see the front of her. Really, it's really unsettling.
Yeah, Meemaw, Mama.
Talk about a nightmare.
Totally. But he found this funny. Okay, I'm going to be clear about this. He thought, this is funny to him, and especially maybe it is that it's a bunch of white people. It's fucking funny too, to him. So the idea of like, during the Q&As he was doing on like the re-release, people would ask him about it, and he's like, he thought about breaking up the sandwiches, but he's like, but then you'd only have half a sandwich. And you'd rather take your chances on the lotto and have the whole sandwich. That was funny to me. So.
Oh no, totally. Now, there's humor exhibited that I'm seeing in my favorite part.
Yes.
Which is the what is it? It's the American Graffiti, like, where are they now?
I love that.
That pops up on the screen, the text.
I love that.
Like at the end of American Graffiti, where it's like, he died in Vietnam. It's like, and like this one, like, they lived high on the hog on the witness protection program.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
And that
it feels like like
Weird
Robert
genius.
Downey, like a Robert Downey move or something. You know,
Totally. I thought of Downey earlier when you were talking about
you know, and
like avant-garde comedy. You know,
it's a Downey
Absolutely.
thing. That's what this is.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's funny because it is one of those segments, like the Where Are They Now, but like you miss the ending, kind of, right? Like it almost drops before that. It is, instead of being like an epilogue, it is the ending. You know?
It's
strange. It's
strange.
a description of the ending. Yeah.
It's strange.
But I
mean,
didn't, you know. But I'm glad to know that they lived high on the hog on the witness protection program.
what does that even mean? Yeah,
Just that language, that
Totally.
writing is so weird and cool.
But in case we haven't explained it, you know, what winds up happening is they don't have enough food for all the people at the table. So then one of the hillbilly motherfuckers just comes out and shoots, you know, enough family members so there's equal food for everybody.
Right.
And then it ends, with these very like block letter, you know, amazing block letter, like this person died on July 16th. This person's in witness protection, and it's super crazy. One other just quick stylized thing to shout out in this too is like there's just straight up shots like trying to build tension, I guess, into like what's going to happen before they ring the bell to see who gets the sandwiches. Of just like no sound, all you hear is that 60 cycle hum of like the video. And there's no music.
You hear that during the whole film. But
You
it's
do.
more exaggerated.
But when it's just that, and it's like these weird sort of three-quarter, you know, profile shots of people, that's getting pretty avant-garde and pretty badass. So
Absolutely.
weird first segment, but it gets better from here. I think the film just starts just ratcheting up and getting better. So
I'll always have great affection for that scene, for that
Totally.
first chunk too. And we'll move on. It's just that it's so unlike everything else.
It is.
Like it's
It
this,
really is.
it's this weird island of like a white family. It's so dreamy and weird.
Yeah. And before we get to the next chapter, we should say too that Black Devil Doll from Hell was first conceived as a chapter in a anthology film thing he wanted to do, but it took on a life of its own, and he's had to make this feature length thing. So
That was the fourth one.
there
Well,
you go.
Trilogy of Terror,
There
the
you go.
1973 thing he was clearly influenced by, is a trilogy. There's two other stories that no one talks about.
That's right.
Other than
That's right.
the dolls.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
interesting.
So
All
there
right.
you go. So the next segment is The Brothers, which is a tale of hatred and revenge of supernatural proportions. Two brothers, Fred and Ted Johnson, brothers who have hated each other from birth. Fred dies of an apparent heart attack. Ted steals his body from a funeral home to carry out a strange and bizarre deed that results in a chain of events that Ted, you know, could not have anticipated.
No, that results in an indelible, surreal, bizarre image of the corpse clown being laughed at in a basement, the fucking Night of the Living Dead basement.
Yeah, it is so whacked.
It's so good.
It's so good though.
And
like,
great clown, by the way.
Great clown.
Like there was care. I could see Shirley being involved in particular.
Sure.
The dressing of the clown is it's very vivid. Like they got it really right. You know, like the right.
It was a rental. The costume was a rental.
It was. Yeah, very Krusty the Clown.
Yeah, it's perfect. So it's like, you know, in those early shots in this chapter, you're seeing them kind of with flashlights go into this morgue. They're breaking into this morgue, and it shows off the great qualities of video. You're seeing the light trails, you know, from the flashlights. You're seeing what that tube video does in like with those dark spots, you know. You know, Marcus, I know I must just be hypnotizing you here. And
it's music to my ears. Yeah, the beautiful flares, and then just the pure fuzz darkness.
That's what I'm trying to get
when
at.
you're like lost.
Fuzz darkness.
And then it goes with the hum. The 60 seconds.
Yeah, totally. And it's amazing. But I mean, come on, stealing your brother, his body from the morgue, and dressing him up like a clown in a basement. That's some familial fucking trauma. That's got to be based on something.
Well,
know?
he cast his actual brother as the guy who steals the body.
That's what we were
too.
saying. Yeah.
So his little, I don't know, it's like
each other.
the brother who's, so his, Chester's actual brother plays the sort of loser brother who's always being one-upped by the older brother. You know?
Right.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, Ted, I think. And then, of course,
Keith.
Fred comes back to life. You know, the character Fred comes back to life. The clown. And how fucking weird is it? What is he doing? He's making weird duck quack sounds when he comes back.
No. That is like the best sound design of the film.
Yeah, what
and
is it?
He's 100% indecipherable.
Yeah.
Is it like a ring modulator or something?
It's like a ring modulator on a ring modulator.
It's amazing.
It is literally indecipherable. Every syllable. It's and it's overdriven. Like, it's amazing. It's
you can't kill me.
It's great art. It's an art house touch.
It is.
Wild choice. Because let's put it this way. Actually, there's dry and wet on an effects pedal. It's just wet.
It's all wet.
It's so wet. Yeah.
It's super wet. Pure wet.
I love the dressing of the clown is like one of the peak moments of the movie for me because he's got the body there and it's this fucking one of the greatest smash cuts. It just like he's got the dead body there, and it just cuts to him in a clown outfit.
That's great.
So a shot cut out of nowhere, and then it pans down the outfit. And everyone watching is going, please be clown shoes. Please be wearing clown shoes. Please be wearing clown shoes. And then, boom, those big clown shoes pan into frame.
That's like an amazing idea. Like, I don't know, like, I'm going to dig up his fucking body, this fucking asshole, and dress him like a fucking clown. You know, like, it's like,
I'm a clown, I amuse you. Yeah, it's a very original idea.
It is. It's pretty great. And so, but of course, he comes back to life to kill his brother, to avenge himself, and, it's wild, man. And then of course it has, that sort of cruel irony of the Tales from the Crypt vibe, or the EC comic, where the other brother thinks he's digging the grave for his brother, but he's really digging his own grave, and that's could have been right out of one of those comics, and I love that.
Oh.
And the brother at the end, he says, "You got one up on me one last time." Yeah, dear brother, that's what he says. So he was going for this like poetic last line to like leave you something to kind of ruminate on after the movie's over.
So cool. Yeah, and it does wind up being oddly poignant. It does work. And just of course just the texture of all the style and weird dime store sort of qualities and set that the film has. It just adds to it even more. So
yeah, for sure.
Totally. That's weird. This movie is like it's derivative but wholly original also at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. So now we get to, I think, my favorite section of the film, which is we're coming back to the wraparound section for the third chapter, where the wraparound becomes its own chapter. And it's titled Unseen Vision is the name of this third chapter. And more family dysfunction and betrayal in this section. So we meet, she's still telling the stories, to her invisible son. But then her son's father comes home, Daryl, who's a grieving father of some kind. He comes home and he interrogates Shirley about the storybook. What the fuck is this? Then he starts to beat her with it, and it becomes a very violent scene. And the rawness of that video aesthetic, holy shit, that really adds to just the realness of all of this feeling.
So verite.
Much more disturbing.
Like think about it. Like the location is too realer than real.
I know.
And then the domestic situation, the domestic violence is realer than real, and depicted quite authentically, and you really feel it. And she's saying that really fucked up thing as she starts fighting back and stabbing him. She's like, dance with me.
Oh, yeah.
That's so dark. But it's just we're not dealing with clowns anymore.
No.
Like this, like it becomes brutally verite.
Yes.
And but I want to add, as I was watching it again, I was like, it's very harsh verite. Almost feels like a documentation of real domestic abuse. And
yes.
Real kitchen.
Yeah.
But underneath it all is default setting sound Casio clown music playing. So it's just this cognitive dissonance, and it's the insane world of Chester Turner.
It's incredible.
On display.
Yeah, default settings, You know, Tom, you were calling it default core, and it really is. And that's what's amazing about it. You know what it reminds me of aesthetically, just to go back to the video and the realness? It reminds me of one of those HBO docs, you know, from like the early 80s or late 80s, maybe. What were those called?
All throughout, 80s, 90s,
yeah,
2000s.
80s, like just like those Undercover or whatever. I can't remember what they were called, but damn.
America Undercover.
Yeah, America Undercover. Like
America
it just
Undercover.
feels
And one
like,
of them was adapted, and it was The Fighter, you know. Like
there you go. That's right. That's right. Like Crack Town or Crack Street or whatever it was called. But dude, that it just feels real, you know, and that's what's very scary.
Well, I think she said that she was getting hurt. He was hurting her with the book. Right. She said, "Yeah."
Oh, damn! Shit.
And Chester's like, I think he was working out some anger on you or something. Like they do talk about that in the.
Wow,
that's like a big therapy session for everybody.
Yeah,
but yeah, no. So
then, what happens is she takes a knife, and there's great tension in this scene. You know, even though it's as crude as it is. There's real tension there. It's ramping up. She's reaching for the knife. She pulls the knife out of the cutting block, and then she stabs him with it. And then, of course, her reaction as this guy's bleeding out in the kitchen, which even looks more scary and real in verite, is she makes these prolonged, odd, you know, noises of anguish. And, you know, her reaction to killing him is pretty disturbing, but in a very real way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds really legit. Like it's like an almost like back to fetal position, kind of like pure guttural, like nonverbal, like expression. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Very heavy.
Which kind of mirrors a little bit to the weird, also prolonged laughter in the brothers segment during the clown part. You know,
one detail.
Yeah,
it's getting very grim, very harsh. There's an insert shot of the knife she used on him. There's fake blood, but it's one of those very clear, retractable blade, like stunt knives. Yes. I had that knife, so that's why I recognized it.
Totally,
like it's very like plastic looking and fake and small. Did you guys notice that?
No, to like a fun shop sort of like gag knife. Yeah,
like the cheapest kind. Yeah,
yeah, incredible. So then after that, you know, she goes into the bathroom, and we follow her into the bathroom. She gets out a razor blade, and now she's contemplating suicide. Now, this is all grim, but also contrasted by cheerful default setting Casio melodies.
yes, definitely. Like the demo.
Yes,
it's also demo core. You know, it's like default, like a demo song.
Yeah, and that's
you hit. You know.
So fucked up, and then
exactly. It's like all these great shots of like familial bliss. You know, with Bobby, we see Bobby.
Happier times.
Yeah, and they're in the park and playing around.
Intercut
and stuff.
Yep, it's intercut scenes of happier days with her and her son Bobby in the playground. You still, he's not giving you the full backstory, but you're seeing this, and that's when the film is kind of becoming is transcending itself because. Indeed. Because the mood and the atmosphere of it is really working, you know, and like, wow, like he's really he struck a note there where, where his filmmaking in terms of juxtaposing these images, the heaviness of everything, but also keeping his own singular bizarre tone with the fucking default setting.
But we're far beyond like Tales of the Unexpected show or like even EC Comics. It's becoming very personal.
Yes.
And in the sense of it being rendered with a lot of feeling.
Heart.
You know,
soul.
It's interesting to hear that Shelley was such a partner with him because she has to give that performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is effective. It could have been a very lame performance, but she commits and
she's
it
in
really
it.
Helps.
She's very dedicated.
Very dedicated too.
Exactly.
I love the structure too. Actually, gives it this depth too, because like it is just the wraparound story, but then you go another layer deeper into it. You know,
I love
so
it.
it's like it's much more profound that way.
So then she, cuts her own throat, brutal. But in her death, sorry, yep.
Well, no, go ahead. You were just to set it up. There's the best filmmaking moment in the film for me.
Okay,
I was really I like went wow when I first saw it. It's maybe the only real close up of the film.
Okay,
and it's very brief and very short. If that's where we're going with this, right? So before she cuts her throat, like 1 second before, it's a really tight close up of her mouth, of Shirley's mouth.
Yeah,
and she's whispering, "Bobby."
Yes.
And that is such good filmmaking, honestly.
is.
Like all kidding aside, no handicapping or anything.
Yeah.
It's a very quick shot,
Yeah.
and it's very dramatic because it is. I don't think there's another big close up in the film, and also like Robert Downey wouldn't have like a weird tight close up, for instance.
Yeah.
Like it's a very bold choice.
It's kind of Rosebud, right? Like it is a little like,
Yeah.
or somewhere else. That moment, it's like very
Yeah,
close, right?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. But like what I'm saying is like it's a bold choice for him because he's created his own aesthetic universe, and there's no other close-ups,
Yeah.
so it has an impact beyond it. And
stands
also
out.
the whisper. Everyone's
whisper.
yelling a lot in this film, right? But there's a whisper, you know. And so it's so dramatic. But then, literally, the next thing you see is this very realistic, very violent, very bloody, like throat slitting.
Yeah.
It's like
So
very intense.
it is. So she cuts her own throat in her own death, in her own suicide. She is then reunited, mother and son, as chroma key spirits in video, and which is amazing. I mean, again, and then that's another layer of style and technology, for Chester in this, which is amazing. And then
and then he also cuts the the demo clown music, and it's they ride off into the ghosty sunset.
they do.
It's sort of a happy ending.
It is, and there they are. They're both they're both chroma keyed spirits, and they're sitting down in those two chairs, and she's telling them stories, and it's the final story, kind of reaffirming how much they loved each other, and how they're the bond. And that's when this movie's like, what the fuck, man? This shit's so
like, where did this come
poignant.
from?
The
heart. This movie has a lot of heart.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's like it's literally like Bobby, and Shirley, they're like the only ones to survive, in this this world, because they're essentially like the victims, of this story. Surviving like domestic violence, like there's like poetry in like artistic poetry in the fact of like how like real that was, this real verite crazy scene we saw, and now it's like brought out into this cosmic emotional finish. It's incredible. It's like a Jodorowsky.
It's kind of like David Lynch
or Jodorowsky.
How we talked before, the David Lynch, every one of his films, there's a big pivot where there's a major, undeniable, emotionally damaging tragedy of some kind. Yeah. Remember we talked about that?
Oh yeah.
Like unbearable, and
then it goes fairy tale.
There's this like what I'm trying to say is like Eraserhead, he kills the baby at the end of Eraserhead, but then he meets with the girl in the radiator, and it's kind of transcendent, and he's kind of
it's exactly
having this blissful embrace with her.
Yeah.
And David Lynch does that where it's like you've gone through the dark side and you're on the other side, which is kind of like a heaven kind of thing.
Yeah. Totally.
Heaven, everything is fine.
Or like the Blue Jays have come back in Blue Velvet.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes a fairy tale almost, So yeah, it's man,
a little different than Things.
Yeah, it is.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah, it is. It really
it's got
is.
more. It's you usually say like it's got a lot on its mind. This film has a lot on its heart. Like
yes,
a lot of feeling in this film, especially in the last act. There's something. And I wonder. I don't know him. But like, I wonder, I don't know if there's necessarily a one-for-one direct correlation, like he lost a child or something like that.
Yeah.
I
don't think so.
But maybe he has faced a kind of, maybe he has, actually. I don't know anything about him really. But, it feels, the feeling, the emotion feels very personal, but maybe it's not specific to like that kind of loss.
Yeah.
But maybe
it probably has something to do with the fact that he was kind of a mature man when he made this.
That's
film,
true.
Yeah,
I mean,
he said 40. Yeah.
Yeah. And when meeting him, I didn't talk to him that long, but he was very kind and pretty soft spoken, and shy, I felt.
Yeah. It is interesting.
Maybe he's got a lot going on internally.
He was very reserved. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. Like, people should start making films, when they're in their 40s, I think. It's like you got to live the life a little bit, before you. And that is interesting here. You have someone who later in life is picking up a camera for the first time and, soaked up all this inspiration for decades through television and other films and comics and then his own life and kind of mashing it up and doing it his own way. it's a pretty fucking incredible story, you know.
He's a man who lived a life. He never, I guess, so this is it. He never made anything else other than this, right?
Well, he wanted to. He had plans to. Like, he wanted to do, you know, the Quadad Zone is 4 movies. And then he also said that he had the movie after that was going to be his first theatrical movie. And it was going to be called FBI, which stands for Fright Beyond Imagination.
That's dope. Holy shit.
Let's get a Kickstarter going.
Right.
FBI, guys.
FBI.
Whereas A24 should be giving Chester Turner money to go make a film.
Yeah, give him a 5-picture deal.
I know, like for real. Like for real.
Like loosen up some of that
yeah.
Joker money. You know? Like, spread that around a little more.
Think how many Chester Turner films you could make for one Joker. Final thoughts is it's the masterpiece of shot on video films. And it's cool. It's cool the fact that this is such a rare film and that this tape demands a high price, and yet it's such a fascinating like art film. I just really like that.
You know what? Can we just think about this for a second? You said there were like 100 of those made VHS tapes.
Yeah.
They were all in like 25-mile radius of where you lived.
Yeah.
Imagine people renting it.
I know.
Like, oh, this looks interesting. Okay, the cover's kind of wild, and they're just like, what the fuck is like? Seriously, I would love to hear like even one testimonial of like a Midwestern family running that on Saturday night. You know.
All right. Yeah, if that was you, please write into.
Yeah, we want to hear
comment
your testimonials.
below.
Like,
Yeah,
I rented Quadad Zone in 1988.
Right.
Send your email to us.
Oh,
Right. If you happen to see this before the turn of the century, right?
In the 80s.
When's the first time you heard about it, Tom?
It was much later. I mean, I
Much
knew
later, right.
I saw Black Devil Doll, like I said, like in the 80s. And
oh, wow.
kind of what we're all saying, which was like hipster people were picking up on, like, it's the other movie the Black Devil Doll guy did.
Mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, I heard it like 2005 or something.
Yeah. All right. That was 1 fucking hour on Tales from the Quadad Zone. One we've talked about doing for a long time. Glad we finally got to it. And that's the first film of this month-long horror movie blitz we're doing that we call One Fucking Tober, which is part 3. This is the 3rd year that we've been doing One Fucking Tober, which is pretty crazy, guys. And you know what that means, Tom? That means that our annual our anniversary is coming up because we started the show in October of 2021. Right. So this is we are entering year 4 now of One Fucking Hour, which is crazy. So,
it's ridiculous. Who would have thunk?
Who would have thought it? Pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about what we're doing this year for One Fucking Tober. Pretty excited about it. So we just did the Quadad Zone. Next week, guys, trigger warning on the next film.
Like literally.
Feel free to skip the watch.
Yeah, but you don't have to, I wouldn't recommend the watch because we're gonna spend most of the time
or at least make sure your fast forward button is working.
ready to go, because we're going to talk mostly about the phenomenon of these types of films. And what is it that we're talking about? Y'all, we're doing 1 fucking hour on Faces of Death next week. So
yeah, not safe for work, not safe for home, not safe for any time, really.
Not safe. Yeah.
Now this is a title we've been talking about for a long time, and you know, I think I've been on the fence a little bit, but it's like this is how you play it, you know, and I think we have a good angle on this, and I think we're gonna play it right. It's like you were saying. There was kind of like the SOV. There was a phenomenon in the 80s of SOV. There was also a sort of like Faces of Death influenced VHS phenomenon of these kind of crass compilations of many faked, and real footage of people dying and being hurt and all that stuff. And I'll speak for myself. Like I'd like to talk about the journey. Like this was a rite of passage when I was a kid in the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys had the same thing.
Yeah, this is the rotten.com of your era, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now we're somewhere else completely. And this is where it kind of bums me out, I guess, where it's just like now in modern times, people are yawning and watching like beheading videos, and it's just like,
Yeah.
what's
Oof,
going on?
Jesus
Exactly.
Christ.
But I will defend my interest in this stuff, as we'll talk about this. The phenomenon of Face of Death movies is there was a strange kind of backwards art to it all. Like I was like recently, I'll just be specific. I was watching Faces of Death 2, actually, and I was listening. I was enjoying the closing credits song.
There you go.
Like, because someone had to make that decision. Like, they're like things. This stuff was still constructed. It wasn't
I
just
know.
like footage online. It was like, oh, that's a good close for the film.
Yeah.
Totally being constructed. Like all these choices still. Like there's all these. And there's narration in Face of Death. There's this weird fake narrator. Like there is art. And spoiler alert, we can attest, Marcus and I. We have met and hung out with the director.
That's fucking nuts.
And I got the receipt, man. I got the 411.
I can't
on
wait.
Face of Death from the guy.
Okay, so Faces of Death. It's going to be more of an exploration, on the phenomenon, the backstory, less about like us analyzing the kills. We're not getting into that creepy shit. So, but that
like the mystique of Chester Turner. Maybe don't watch it and just have the mystique of Faces of Death.
There you go.
Transmitted through our episode.
If I might, let me just say, let's just say specific. It's Faces of Death, first one. It is 75% fake.
Yeah.
And so all this, and I was talking about filmmaking choices that happened.
Right.
This one, they had to make a lot of them. 75% of the film. 25% is very, very real and very unpleasant and always bums me out. And it's more towards the end, actually. And so, but it's so fake, so clearly fake, very often. So, it's not as crude and as confrontational as you might think. Face of Death,
but it has the reputation. For sure.
It is fake and artsy, like a lot, actually. So check it out. But maybe like tune out when it starts being very clearly like newsreel footage. We can split.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So Faces of Death next week, and then the week after, week 3, Rami Bennett's going to join back on the channel to get into a monster title that I can't believe we haven't covered yet. But we got to do one big, masterpiece film for the October series. We're going to do Rosemary's Baby. So. Dude, Rosemary's Baby, long overdue.
Listed as top 10 movie for me in our last episode.
I know. It's kind of criminal that it wasn't on mine either.
I really look forward to that, especially after next week, which is an insult to humanity. An episode. So it'd be perfect.
Perfect.
Palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser. So we're going to do Rosemary's Baby. Can't wait to do just a big deep dive love fest on that film. And then we're going to cap all this off with a monster episode. Tom, this might be longer than the hour clock, right? This is going to go...
No, we can't. You got to keep...
Going to be hour?
The rules. You got to keep the rules.
All right. I didn't know it was possible. But we're going to be doing one fucking hour on the entire Friday the 13th franchise. And let me be specific. Asterisks on that. It's going to be Friday the 13th, part 1 through 8. We're going to deep dive.
Just to be clear.
Yep.
1 through 8 are the Friday the 13th films. Then there was a legal thing, and they became the Jason films.
That's right.
Jason in space versus Freddy. So yeah, we'll just go 1 through 9.
8.
I'm
1 through
an
8.
expert. I don't have like Aspergery kind of like trivia stuff, like the last name of the fourth person.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Not that. We're not doing that.
No
but
trivia.
I'd like to. I'm gonna, and I'll be the Sherpa here for you guys, because I think it's a little imbalanced, because I'm an insane expert on this shit. But what I want to do, the intention here, is it's not really going through each film one by one and breaking it down. That's why I think an hour works. It's one long film, and we just walk through each film and address the progression or digression or the sideways changes and all the evolutions. Like this film, they dropped having a nerdy class clown guy, or this guy was the class clown in this one, or this was this. Oh, this one has a lot of anachronistic counterculture people for some reason. Hitchhiker hippie girl, like in 1985. Okay, sure. So I'm going to break down, and and boilerplate stuff like The Mask premiered here. All the changes, the different types of killing.
The copycat.
And my personal favorite,
Yeah.
Sorry.
The copycat Jason as well.
Oh, all that. No, but also just the leaps in logic and the plot loopholes and how it started on this insane, after the first one, the insane footing of delirious, illogical storytelling.
Totally.
Right from the second one on.
To justify
and
the
then
film,
it continued.
yeah.
And they went for it, and then they had ups and downs, and they had there was rebranding, reboots, re-energizing this thing, and taking a different chance and kind of failing, trying to infuse something here, trying to infuse something there, going with trends, going with their demographic. Our demographic, stoner teen, college kids. No, now it's 12-year-olds. So that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I love it. So it's going to be a master class on the 8 Friday the 13th films, 1 through 8. Very excited about that. So that's going to cap off the October series, and that'll be a one fucking Tober right there. And I think that's pretty goddamn good.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, and we'll sprinkle in a bonus or two up on the One Fucking Hour Patreon. Patreon.com/one fucking hour is where you're going to be able to hear that only.
Yeah.
Or
join the Patreon. Don't be hating on us. Join the Patreon.
Yeah, don't be Patreon and get in there. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much, and we'll see you next week for Faces of Death. But before we do that, here is your Momen of Zen. Can't wait for next week's Momen. All right, everybody. Take care, and we will see you next week, man. Faces of Death.
Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Made a lot of alterations in the dial. I gave him that hairstyle. I wanted him to have that Rick James farmer look. Okay, so I wanted him to look like a farmer, but I wanted him to kind of look like Rick James.
Just come up with that idea, and we had to do some hands. You know, we had to make the doll work by hand, you know, and then we had to have another little person do some intake for it.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.